Hi everybody, welcome to Season 5, Episode 5 of the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, Chairman and owner of Peterborough United. We haven't recorded for a couple of weeks, we've both been on our travels, so where are you now? Where's Darragh?
I'm in London, I'm burnt out, I can't wait to get home. Obviously, last time we spoke was in the States, moved my kid into college. Then I had to fly to the UAE for football business for 3 days. Then I left the UAE, came over for football, watched us lose to Wrexham, closed the transfer window out working from here. I flew in the day of the transfer window. And I'm burnt out now. So I've got a massive meeting with all the staff on Friday. I'm doing a sponsors get together on Tuesday for the commercial team. And I fly home on Wednesday and then start working on my 17-year-old daughter's college applications for next summer. And so it begins again for the second cycle. And I'm burnt out on the football stuff. I've had TalkSport trying to book me for this, which is nice. But I'm like, I've gone no to everything. And anybody who's emailed me about talking on podcasts, I've had journalists on about 𝗛𝗿𝗂 move, Ivan's move. I'm done. I am like, I did TalkSport as a favour yesterday to Jim White, as I turned him down. He rang me the night before. He's like, oh, please come on with me and Simon for 15 minutes or whatever else. I was like, fine. But I'm not talking about Ivan Toney again. So I'm just, so where am I at this stage? I'm looking forward to getting home. It's a really, really good end to the window. Tick, everything we wanted. Obviously, we lost to Wrexham. Obviously, we had a great win last night. We changed the team. A few players are international duty. Where do you want to start? Window, Wrexham, where do you want to start? Just don't mention Ivan fucking Toney.
So let's start with Ivan Toney.
Honestly, funny enough you mentioned it. I had his agent send me a message last night going, you need to get your prayer mat out and pray to me. And I'm like, he's got like a massive agent who I got on really well with it. Coming back to him, I went, why don't you get to fuck? Like, with all due respect, I've seen the deal sheet. Yeah, I ain't getting any mat out. I ain't praying at the feet of anybody. Like, good for the player, good for you guys. But like, but he wasn't going anywhere. 20 minutes to go in the window. I'm like, well, that's a you problem. I'm sick of talking about it. There is no winning lottery ticket. There is no big, massive payday. It's over a few years. We're very happy to get anything out of it. You always are with sell-ons. Let's move on and wish him the best, earning his 20 million a year tax-free. I'm sure everyone would like to be him. Definitely his wallet. Good luck to him.
Yeah, I would. I don't think there's many people who turn that opportunity down.
Nobody. My frustration, of course, was should have gone to a Premier League club a year ago or whatever else. But look, it's done now. Good luck to him. He's earned a fortune. He's gone from 30 grand a week or 38 grand a week to 400 grand a week tax free. Great for him and his family. God bless them all.
So let's start with transfer window then. Your ins, you're going to have to help me with his surname here. So I'll call him Young Bradley.
Let's just call him Brad. Let's just call him Brad. Yeah, I was going to, BI, Brad. Let's just call him Brad. So, so we obviously keep a close eye on Colchester. There's a few clubs who always do really well out of business-wise and good relationship with. Robbie is a friend of mine who owns Colchester. We were in for the right back who went to Stoke last summer. We always look at their players. We missed some, we signed some. We've watched Bradley for a while. My scout's been all over it. I get reports once a month of Colchester. So we, had Bradley on our list with the other striker they had last summer. I was giving reports into the manager and his coaches. We played them pre-season. He absolutely destroyed our defenders in pre-season. It was at our training ground. Obviously, I said to Baz at the end of the game, if I have anything spare in August, we're going to try and gem sign him. So I said to the gaff a couple of weeks to go, I said, look, if anything's spare, I'm going to try and acquire a couple of gems. I'll let you know if anything comes off. So deadline day, I started making bids on 2 gems. We had a little bit of spare money. We felt we could nothing that we thought would go into the first 11 and change things. I worked on the Jadel deal the day before in the UAE, the day before deadline day. We'd wanted Jadel all summer. We got told all summer that he was going to the top of the champ, or he was going to go to Scotland. I think it was Rangers he was potentially going to. And we kept him with Man City. We were trying to acquire a 4th centre half. None of the ones that were thrown at us or were on the table that none of us loved. There was nobody there we wanted to buy yet. So I said to the manager, pretty much 3 weeks before the end of the window, let's just sit on this till deadline day. And if we have to, we'll go and get one of these kids that we've identified from, the bigger Premier League clubs. And to buy one, we'll wait till January. We'll get a fourth one in January or next summer. We've got 3 very good ones. We just need a fourth. So we got a call. Scarfy got a call off 𝗛𝗏 the day before saying that the Scotland move was off. Man City then came on to us and said, look, let's try and work something out. So we obviously had to pay a lot more than last year, wages wise. So I approved, the deal. The night before I flew on deadline day overnight. I arrived at 7 a.m. in England. I approved the deal the night before. And then it was just the race against time on getting him down on the day, getting his agent. But his agent, I believe, represents Sancho. So he was busy doing the Sancho deal. Even to like 45 minutes before the window ended, we needed his digital signature. And because of the Sancho, they were all like, 𝗛𝗏's at the ground, we're at the ground. We're all like, we need to get this signed. We got no other option here. Yep. So anyway, so that was really good because he can play centre back, he can play left back, he can play right back, he can play central midfielder. We were fucking all of us Doolally happy making that signing because of the injuries and the issues that he could cover like 4 positions. And then the Brad thing, I basically put in a little cheeky bid to my friend Robbie at Colchester. And that started at like 11 in the morning. I'd landed at 7, got to my desk here in my office in the UK house, had had a shower, coffee, and then started making a couple of bids. And then Robbie obviously came back to me. I love Robbie, but he takes 45 minutes to answer an email. So we were going backwards and forwards, and it's like we should have picked up the phone. And then Brad was on the coach going to Accrington and Stanley. I think finally me and Robbie, going 12 rounds together, did the deal at 6 p.m. We had Brad's agent coming down. With Brad leaving in another car to come down from Liverpool or wherever he was. And he arrived an hour to go in the window, to get all the paperwork done, medicals, all that stuff. So really happy with that bit of business. Really happy to keep our best players because there was a lot of stuff going on in the final 48 hours. There was a lot of, people have always asked those players upset. Of course they're upset at the time, that they want their big move. And I don't want headlines again going out there, oh, there were players upset or whatever else. But like the reality is, when you feel like you can go on to the next level and you're going to earn a lot more money, but obviously we'd said to those players, A, I want to give you a new contract on that more money. And B, we think you can do better than some of the clubs that came in for you. So we just needed to get the window shut. We need to settle down those 2 or 3 players that we had bids for. And, and that's it. Get on. I think give it time. Everyone settle down. The window's closed, the uncertainty, those players who thought they were going to move. We told them a month out we weren't selling them. We were really strong on that. I don't know if they thought I was bluffing, but like more bids came in the day before, and it was like, I told you, we're not selling them. Like, it's not happening. So, we want to keep them. I did a statistical analysis. If we'd sold Hector or Kwame, we would have a 50% less chance of getting promoted. That's, that was more important than the bids that were coming in. And we'd done our business already pretty much, for the summer and what we needed to do for the year ahead. Obviously, there were a lot of headlines about we took in 11 million, we did this, we did that. What the headlines don't cover is there's sell-ons, there's fees, there's whatever else. We didn't from January take 11 million. Did we do gross fees in that way? Yes, of course. But, for example, from January to the summer on last year's cash flow, there was a 2 million hole. Then from July this year till June next year, there's a £5.5 million hole. And that's paying club bills, wages, all our stuff we do. And also then I think we ended up the 2nd biggest spenders in League One. We with the deals we did, including loans, because there were loan fees and wages. I think we ended up doing over 2.2 million in the transfer market. Birmingham were number 1. I think we were number 2, and I believe Wrexham were number 3. So we retooled and brought in some good talent in the window, and obviously then we spent a considerable amount on the new mega store. We spent a lot on the pitches, and we've covered pretty much our hole. I think our hole's down to 600 grand now cash flow wise, which is from the last couple of months of the season, which is a good cup run or whatever else. So no, we felt like we had a really good window. I've said it all along, it's going to take a minute for some of the players to adapt. It's going to take a minute for us to have our identity fully running and operational. And that was probably reflected in the Wrexham game the next day. The biggest gutter is another great home crowd. The atmosphere was electric, and we dominated passing. We dominated all those stats that don't mean diddly shit if you don't take a shot on goal. Wrexham were, and what really irritated, I think, the manager and even me was the manager was asked after the game, you've got 2, big games out of the way in Huddersfield and Wrexham. And I was asked again, I think someone said to me the other day, well, and I was like, with all due respect, we've won promotion from this league against Leeds, Southampton, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, Sunderland, Brighton, some massive football clubs we've gone toe to toe with. and beat those teams to win promotion. So I'm not trying to take anything away from a Wrexham or a Huddersfield or whatever else, but like, you know, we would expect to do well against those teams. But fair play to Parkinson and Wrexham. Very, very, very astute, typical League One team. Very good at what they do. You can tell they've been together. You can tell that, you know, and they were just clinical. They took their chances. They scored 2 goals. Pretty much, I think our goalkeeper had 3 saves to make the whole game, which was their 2 goals and the one that hit the post from a free kick. And their goalkeeper could have gone on holiday for the game. It was one of those days where we weren't firing in the final third, you know, and you know, Hector's played his first game in like 4 weeks. There's just all those, no excuses. Fair play, Wrexham, their fans, everything else. They were magnificent on the day. I was gutted for our fans. We had like over, I think, 10,500 of our own fans show up. What you want to give them something for the energy, and you know,
come back from war.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it was like, you know, the air came out of it a little bit. So we have lots to work on. Look, we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of players, and you know, it's funny enough. You look and go, the final third, which is the criticism, and if you watch Gillingham last night, our 4 wingers, you know, they'd been on pump last night because we had our 4 wingers basically, you know, via subs, starts, and whatever else. We could have scored 10 goals last night. So it's there, you know, and again, we looked like ourselves last night. The 2 away games, we looked at ourselves. We haven't quite clicked at home yet. We will. I think what we need is partnerships. I think we need, you know, a back 2. We need partnerships in the wings. We need partnerships at full back. I think once the manager and his team decide what their 11 is, and the strong spine to the 11, and the same like last year, and you know your 11, and you know, back your horse up front. 1 minute it's Malik, then it's Ricky. You know, Brad was great last night, scored on his debut. He's going to take a bit of time. I'm not sure he's ready, but that's up to the manager. But like, is it Ricky? Is it Malik? You know, is it on the left? Is it, you know, once we get that identity and we know who's playing. Like last year, I could name the 11 every Saturday without the manager telling me, pretty much. When we get to that stage, which I think we will in a few weeks' time, and we've got an international break now, and there's a lot of work going on. Once we get to that stage and everyone's fully fit, touch wood, we're going to be some team. You know,
so I have some questions out of both the transfer window and kind of the retooling. So, you know, what things look like at the end of the transfer window. This is more kind of the, I don't know, the administrative side of a transfer window. You talked about when you were going backwards and forwards with Colchester about making a couple of bids. How do you make a bid? Are you just, you know, firing off an email or a text message and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Or is there some kind of formal process?
So my opening thing to Robbie was, Robbie, love you to bits. You know, love your talent. Unfortunately, I'm going to make a bid for one of them. And obviously, you can tell me to fuck off, you know, whatever else. Here's the bid. So I'll put the transfer fee. I'll put the payment structure. I'll tell Robbie, I've got some spare money. This is all I've got now. Robbie's always brilliant like that. You know, he's like me. He's very flexible about taking the money and whatever, all the deals we've ever done. And then I'll throw in all the extras, all the uploads. You know, I'll also give you, and I'm throwing figures out as examples. Don't take this verbatim. 150 grand over 100 appearances. That's extra on top of the transfer fee. 50 grand should Peterborough get promoted from League One to the Champ and he plays half the games. 50 grand for every year Peterborough retain championship status, he plays half the games. 200 grand if we get to the promised land. You know, 25 grand if he wins the Golden Boot. Basically, every time you fart, spits, or giggles, Robbie and Colchester earn a few dollars. Yeah. You know, so you put in the bid, and you know, and that bid could then, when you look at it all, and the good news with dealing with Peterborough is, you know, a lot of clubs who haven't dealt with us look at it and go, well, he's never going to do that. He's not. But most players do all those things in my, you know, so why a transfer fee might start at 300 grand or 250 or whatever. By the time you're finished, you end up paying that club over $500,000, never mind the sell-on. So that's the bid to Robbie. Robbie will then do his thing where he comes back. He's almost like a scientist. And he wrote out his thing. It must have taken him an hour to write it. My eyesight's gone on me. So I've suddenly got my glasses I'm fucking wearing. I'm reading it and going, fuck me, could he use small enough font? So I'm like, fuck off, I ain't doing that. So I've gone back to Rob and gone, Rob, you know, A, I've got a cap. B, I know what I've got spare to spend. I can't do that. And when this went backwards and forwards, so we were within 5 grand. And at that stage, I was exhausted. I think it was 5:30. Very few people get me to that stage. And I love sparring with Robbie. He's a good negotiator. And I was like, do you know what? The boys in fucking Accrington, you know, I'm going to have my staff up till 1 o'clock in the morning trying to do this. So I was kind of like, I've gone as far, and in fairness to Robbie, he realised that. He was like, okay, deal. You can talk to the player. You can, you know, get him off the bus, get on to his agent, you know. he'd already given us permission an hour before to try and trash out a deal with the agent in advance of me and him, because we were close enough. Me and him got to a deal, because otherwise you're wasting your time. We could ring the agent. The agent goes, he wants 5-6 grand a week. I'm paying that for a 20-year-old, with potential. So the agent's like, no. And some of these agents are strikers. Like, this agent was brilliant. Some of them blow my fucking mind. Like, blow my mind. Where, like, what we do for strikers, so it's a bit like that, you know what I mean? So no pressure on Brad. We see him as a project. We think, he's going to be a player. Like, we still think young Jacob at Gillingham's going to be a player. So what we're doing there is building blocks. Everyone always talks about our lack of strikers. And I might have something else I'm working on as well for January. You know what I mean? That I'm working on. So people always go on about our forwards and and we haven't got a striker and they score goals. And after we were like the leading goal scorers after Man City last year, and pretty much the same cast as in the building, like in those areas. So yeah, so to answer someone's question, he goes back, and then once me and Rob agree, I then bang it over to Liz, and Liz formalizes all that into a contract between our clubs. And she'll deal with Robbie's, head of football or football administration. And then there's a formalized document between the clubs. Once I've agreed terms with the agent, which I left to Barry on this one, I gave Barry the parameters of what I pay and the deal and whatever else. I think we signed him on a 3+1. So all the new players came in on like 4-year deals. So I'm not in that last year contract shit I've been in this summer. And once that had been agreed with the agent, the same thing, it's sent to me to read. Then the agent, the player know when they digitally get that contract, they got to sign it. The actual transfer agreement between me and Colchester, once Liz formalised it, Robbie's people formalised it, I then go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Because over the years, mistakes have happened, and that's for every football club, where you might have misread something or something that didn't quite make right, or little things like, well, he gets paid for appearances made, of the club do, but that's a start. So you get X amount for X amount of starts, but if he makes 2 sub appearances, that counts as 1 start as long as the sub appearances are before the 75th minute. It's all those little things that are in the small detail, the sell-on clause, the wording of it. It's obviously you're going to pay them a sell-on profit. In other words, anything over what we've already paid you. Or I'm going to pay you on the gross. So if we sell a player for 10 and we ended up paying you $1 million at the start with all the add-ons, there's 9 million in profit. It ain't 10 million in profit for the sell-on. So it's all important. And once all that's done and Liz has to upload it to a system, it gets sent to the FL, to the FA, all of that. All parties have to sign. Then she presses like a submit button. And unless that registers in this system, you don't see it in the system, and you miss the deadline, you're fucked, as we found out with Clark Harris last summer. So all those moving parts, if Liz gets hit by a fucking bus, God love her, we then have a plan B. So we had like Alicia who's helping us this year, because we've had a lot of stuff going on outside of the club. I'll give you an example. We signed Oscar in the summer, and Liz was away. And she was leaving her hotel to travel to the airport, and I'd done the deal on Oscar with his club, the player, the agent, the medical. And it was coming out in the press, and I was worried about somebody diving in and nicking him from the hotel. So Liz was like, I don't have any Wi-Fi. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Pull over on the side of the road, miss your flight, pull the Wi-Fi up and get this done. And she's like, she could be, I don't know, dealing with 50 people running her in an alleyway trying to mug her, and she'd still find a way to get things signed and done and whatever. And that's, a compliment to her. So the team effort around all those deals and everything that happened. If we didn't have a Liz, Alicia, Baz, everyone involved in it, and then the media team are fucking there all day long. They have to do their part, and they have to upload, and they have to get approval from me. And I'll be really honest with you on deadline day. I probably upset a lot of people I love very dearly, because I was between 10 a.m. till 11 p.m. I was backwards and forwards working on those 2 deals, the Jadel deal, this deal. We were trying to move a couple of players on, not big assets. I'm talking about younger players. We were trying to do it with Romany as well. We were doing a lot of different stuff. And all I had were people from all over the world going in, oh, you've seen the Ivan Toney news. Oh, what's going on? Oh, give me a bit of juice. And I was like, fuck off. Like, I'm in the thick of the battle.
You're in the middle of it right now.
I'm reading stuff. I'm putting offers in. I'm submitting. And I'm getting fucking people asking me for like gossip on the transfer market that know me. I'm like, fuck off. Like, leave me the fuck alone. Until this is closed, leave me alone. Yeah. So I felt, and then obviously I'm speaking to the manager. Like, I'd given the manager a heads up about Brad, and he was like, oh, I said, it's a long shot. I'm going to try. So the manager rings me at like 6:30. He goes, fuck, have you done the deal for Brad? And I'm like, fuck, I forgot to text you. I said, yeah, I've done the deal with Brad. I said, can you ring the boy and have a chat with him? He's like, fucking great. I completely forgotten to let the manager know. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So I think it was somebody else at the club had said to him, oh, I think the physio had to do the medical, let him know that Brad was potentially coming in. So he was like, I think he was home. They'd finished training, and he was just like, "Fuck, you've done it there for Brad." And I was like, "Fuck." I forgot. Yeah. So it's all a bit like that. It's exhilarating. It's exhausting. It's exciting. It's disappointing at times, like last year, and we got fucked in the Clark Harris deal. It's it's frantic, and and because we'd made our case clear the day before about people who were trying to buy our players, we didn't have any of that palaver either.
Right.
So we didn't have any last minute bids for on deadline day. The day before we did, 2 days before when I was in Dubai, we did. I know the gaff had said inquiries or whatever else, but like, with all due respect, they were offers. And inquiries are not an offer. So when you ring up and say, will you take 2.5 million plus 2.5 million? It's a fucking offer. It's not an inquiry. If I say yes, you then follow it up with a formal in writing. Do you get what I mean? So there's inquiries and offers are pretty
it's
much.
It's not saying is he available. It's like
I'm trying to buy him.
You made a proposal. This is my proposal.
Yeah. And what you do is, and fair play, we do the same. Clubs will ring us and go, look, will you take 5 million for him? Will you take 4 million for him? What if I gave you 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus a sell on? That's not them inquiring. That's them trying to buy the fucking player. So no, we felt it was a good window. We lost a few key pieces. We brought some great talent for key areas in. We spent a lot of money. We brought a lot of money in. We paid all our bills for the year. We're reducing a bit of debt. The academy is flying. The 21 players have stepped up, got new contracts. We're in the team. Last night we had Donnelly in the team. We had Manny in the team. We had Toney in the team. They were all basically came through the academy in 21s, fucking proper players. Toney signed a new 4-year deal. I think Donnelly signed a 4+1. We've got some of our best young talent tied down. I'm going to have a go again with a couple of the other players in the first team that are, in the last year now, the window's died down, and hopefully their parents, their agents aren't too upset with me. I'll have a go again because, they're thinking moves. So I'll try and make that right for them now. So, but that was the risk we were willing to take. I'd made the promise to the manager, final approval, and, that's over now, because that was just this window. So he knows that. So yeah, it's all good.
now, as we always say talk about every player as their price. And you said, you're doing some of the analysis, and you said, like, I take this player out, and I think it's going to lead to a 15% reduction in let's go opportunities or points, even, or whatever that may be. Like, what has to happen to turn it from I'm not willing to give up that impact on the team to this bid is so lucrative I can't say no?
Yeah, so there was one player in particular in a certain area of our team that we knew that, me and the manager were very aligned that we never felt the bids would get to life-changing that would alter the course of the season. But losing him for 2 mil or 3 mil would completely change our chances of getting promoted. Promotion's worth 15 million. Promotion's worth your club doing really well commercially. It's worth your player values going up. So even if you lose that player, you walk away, you take that chance. Most League One clubs wouldn't. Because we'd done early business, we felt we could.
Yeah.
And I promised the manager that, and I told the player weeks ago. And again, that same club came in like 3 days before, again, trying to not upset the apple cart, but throw a spanner in the works. But now, if that club had suddenly offered 5, 6, 7 million, Darren would ring me and probably say, Chairman, we've got to take that money.
We can manage it.
Yeah, that was the manager's, like, if it had been any other window and it was got to that level, I'd be like, look, Gaff, we're going to have to soldier on. That's life-changing for a League One club. 2 million isn't life-changing, when you look at the odds and the statistics. Bigger numbers are. So, but I still would have said to the manager, I'm not doing it unless you want to do it. But the manager will always take the club into account as well. He'll always look at it and go, we can improve as a club long-term, and this is what me and my staff get paid the big bucks to do. So I think he was worried that somebody would come in, particularly for Kwame, with something silly. Like we had, it was Luton who came in 3 days before. They'd sold a winger to the Prem. So their chief executive rang Barry. They won't mind me saying that. There'd been 4 other clubs previous to them, and then Luton came in. And to be fair, Kwame was as good as gold. Didn't cause any issues whatsoever. But we just said to Gary Sweet, their CEO, we're not selling Kwame. And it was an okay bid. It was in the millions, with add-ons and whatever else, but it just wasn't. Kwame's under 24. We'll get the same bid they made. We get it at Tribunal next year. So I think the manager was concerned if somebody had come in with a bigger bid than that, particularly one of the clubs we knew the player had mentioned a couple of months before, and we thought, okay, that club could come back.
Yeah.
And they started doing a bit of business late, and we thought, fuck. Because really, there was no replacement. You can scan the leagues for wingers and do whatever else, but again, it was like him and Hector are like irreplaceable. There were no players that we could slot in straight away and go, we're okay. We'll take a minute, but we're okay. They're just two really important players. So that's just the nature of it. I'm just glad it's done. I'm glad now we've got 4 months to settle down, and the players, their agents, their families aren't upset at me, whatever. And we just get on with trying to do what we're trying to do, and that's to win promotion as always.
Now, the other question I had was around loan fees, and it's not necessarily specific to anybody that you loaned in, but when you're talking loan fees, are you talking 20 grand? Are you talking 200 grand? I mean, what's kind of the range of a loan fee?
You're talking packages. So we obviously had a couple of loans in, and they weren't cheap, so north of 200 grand in a total package.
Okay.
Wages, fees, bonuses, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you may as well attribute that as a transfer fee on top of what's already been spent. And, the only one I would have gone big for was 𝗛𝗏, which I did in the end. Like, we got other offers of loan players from the champ on $5 grand a week and this and that. And it was like a 4 cent a half. And I was like, I don't even think they're better than the 3 we have. Now I'm going to blow. We just thought 𝗛𝗏, our relationship with City, he knows our team. He knows the dressing room. He rang Hector as captain the day before to tell him he was coming back. We just felt that was one, worth pushing the boat out for. So we did that. I'm not sure we'd have done that in any other player. So, again, like I said to you, we went all out, and we feel we pretty much acquired a lot of our main targets. Not all of them, but our main targets.
And you had that budget that was some of the budget that was available then from the kid that got injured that went back to Manchester City. That
No. So he will come back to us in January.
Okay.
He's still with us.
Okay.
So we decided, we worked with Man City on it, and we was like, we don't want to end that long.
Yeah.
We don't want someone else to take him in January. So we're hoping he recovers sooner. And, it's not that we didn't even, want to ask Man City for any favours. We just want to make sure the player comes back to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that player is still our player on loan.
Yeah.
And he'll be back with us when he's fit.
All
if he's miraculously fit earlier, great.
Yeah.
So
it's
more
not
strength
waiting
and
to
depth in
reload
there.
him in January.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And the 𝗛𝗏 thing was, there was no other club Man City would have given in to in League One but us.
Yeah.
And for that, we're very thankful to our family member. So all's good.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our window. That's kind of like, how it all went. What else was I going to say to you? We had to go with another gem, and the player I think in question was devastated. Family agent, but I get it. We were on the other side of that, stopping some of our players going higher. Their owner wasn't even want to let them go. He just wanted too much that I felt wasn't. It didn't become gem money. So we give. We always, when we sign players for Barnet, bar Jack Taylor, who's bigger money. Most of the signings are gem money. I call gem money in a certain bracket where there's lots of built-in things where you will earn, Barnet will earn, and then the sell-on. And we felt this player we could improve, get into the league and do really well and take time, and that club would do really well. And we signed a player off that club before, and we kind of got stung on it and whatever else. So, their owner came back with like 3 times we wanted for our offer. So I said to Barry, I was in the airport in Dubai flying. I said, look, tell him good luck. And say la vie. At the end of the day, we do. We can't, somebody I get it. You have a price. That's great. Good for you. But no, player wasn't even in their team.
Yeah. And that price might not be the price in January either.
No. And it's if you're taking somebody from someone's 11, that's a key part of their team. You get why they're trying to ask for the bigger amount, but they weren't. It was just a project, a young player project type thing. And you're just like, nah, not for me. So sometimes you get some teams in non-league who want to go into battle with me, with Baz, and they almost want to feel like they get the upper hand, and it ends up costing them more than us. So I can't, help that. That's just the way it is. Good luck.
And they may see it as, a what's the right word?
A scalp.
Well, the opportunity for them to make a lot of money quickly.
No, they don't. They don't. I think they just look at it, right, it's a Peterborough, and they probably saw the Ivan Toney thing. I'm going to nick more money, and if they want one of my young players, I'm going to try and get more out of them. And they don't think of the long term. The one thing I love about Robbie is Robbie thinks of the long term. Robbie's clever at Colchester. They try and get the best deal out of me. He get the best deal for his club, and he thinks of the long term because he's got a top tier academy, and he keeps producing these players.
Right.
And it's never adversarial with Robbie. It's always a common sense approach when you do a deal. When I bought Kwame Poku, it was common sense approach, and whatever else. He knows we're going to develop and help, so we have that relationship. And God willing, Colchester will make millions out of us, down the line from those deals, and we do more.
And he probably knows, given the talent he has, if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else.
Exactly right. So, but he never tries to stiff me. He never tries to get a scalp or one over me. He just worked with you. So I can't be more complimentary. And Exeter are a bit like that. Exeter are very good to deal with. Exeter, you never get that feeling they're trying to, it's Peterborough, next week. Exeter are always very, very, very pragmatic, very down to earth, very much understand. As you'll have seen with the boy that went to Birmingham and Stansfield, Exeter made a big cut. That's how they operate. That's why they're a wonderfully well-run football club. And Barnet the same, and Colchester the same. All those clubs, it's not an accident. They do great business financially out of sell-ons and whatever else. They've got their heads screwed on right.
And that's from an investment in academy.
Absolutely. And how they then interact with a Peterborough or with another club. You know what I mean? They do things where it's not letting egos get in the way. It's not trying to take a scalp off Darragh MacAnthony or, blah, 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 or be unreasonable. They do things in the right way that leads to better results long-term financially.
And it's part of that because they have there's kind of the chain of play. They're not just trying to make all their money on the one star that they got lucky with, that came through the academy, that was worth a ton of money, and they want to max it because they know it's, they got this player, next year there's going to be another one, there's going to be another one.
Absolutely.
The conveyor belt keeps on going.
100%. And that's how they do it. You know what I mean? So, and it's profitable. Exeter have had Watkins. They've had, Jesus, I could name 5-6 players. Yeah. So Colchester the same. So that was really good. So let's talk Bradford quickly on the window. And what was your result last Saturday? I can't remember.
So we lost to Grimsby 2-1.
Posh Bradford lost double.
Yeah. So we beat Bromley 3-1, which was one of those games where they had a player sent off after 8 minutes.
Right.
I mean, we should have scored a hatful against them. So that was nice for a change because that's usually a banana skin kind of game. Then we show up at Grimsby after they'd already knocked us out at Grimsby in the League Cup on penalties, and we didn't show up. Sure. So we lost 2-1, and that was probably closer than it deserved to be. And then last night we played Newcastle under 21s, and we drew 2-2. We conceded in the 94th minute. Somehow there were 7 minutes of injury time. Not sure where that came from. Went to penalties. We lost on penalties. So, but from a transfer deadline and a squad perspective, we brought in. You talk about Exeter. We brought in 𝗛𝗿𝗂𝗧𝗿𝗂𝗁, I think how he's pronounced. I'm not entirely certain on that. We signed him on loan from Exeter. I think pretty no nonsense centre half. Who just wants and needed some game time, and then Jay Ben, who came in from Lincoln, who I think is actually a Bradford lad, and he came in at right back as cover, but he came on a sub yesterday, did really well, really good crossing, so I think that he'll be probably in contention more than was expected. We talked before about Ollie Sanderson coming in, and that he's somebody that you've certainly had your eye on, and he did very well last night. And I think that that's probably going to be his step up into the first team at the weekend, I would imagine.
So pretty settled. You didn't lose any key assets.
No, we finally moved on Jake Young.
Yeah, what did you get for him from Stevenage? I got offered him in the final week of the window. His agent was doing his job, obviously offering everybody out.
Yeah.
What was the deal in the end?
So I don't know specifically what the deal is. I'm imagining, and this is me just kind of making up numbers, I'd imagine 150, 150, something like that. But
Gotcha.
That's
yeah, because everyone's looking for like a striker in the final week of the window. So I did see a lot of speculation with Jake Young, and whatever else.
I mean, I think that his agent was just trying to get him out anywhere that was in League One or even the Championship. I think they were aiming at.
Behave. But no, fair play that he's got him the move. So he's gone to look. Stevenage are good as well. They develop strikers really well. Matt Godden, the boy obviously last year, Reed, who scored all the goals, and now they've got him. So listen, hopefully he gets his career up and running.
Yeah, it's there's something in there. There's definitely some talent in there. It hasn't worked for him with us. I think that we were probably both past the point of no return a few months ago.
And you see, there's the thing. I guarantee you, whatever he went to Stevenage for would be a lot less than if I'd rang Ryan up and asked him. I didn't, by the way. If I'd rang Ryan and said, "Give me a price on Jake Young," Ryan would have seen the old scalp time. Oh, here we go, and like the goalkeeper a year ago, whatever else. You know what I mean? And like, and would have, and have been like, again, for fuck's sake, I guarantee you, Stevenage would have got a better deal than we would have got. If I had been in for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that, and I think the coming down to the end of the transfer window and the having to be something that would happen. I think that urgency can play on. If you're desperate to buy, then you'll pay more, and if you're, motivated to get rid of somebody, then maybe it's going to change what you're going to accept.
I found it was a bit more of a Zen-like approach to the deadline. I was like, where everyone was frantic about centre halves and this and that. As the week came down, I actually said to everyone, something I've never really done because I'm the most intense fucker ever. I said to the manager a couple of days before, you need to calm down. We all need to calm down. We've got like a million centre halves being thrown at us, and we're my scout, your analysis team, we're all analysing and going whatever else. We need to just relax and see what comes to us. Let's wait until the Thursday. I think deadline day was the Friday. Let's wait till the Thursday evening. Have a couple of options that we start putting some seeds in place and getting some costs. Have a plan B, and and funny enough, Jadel suddenly popped up on the Thursday. Regards another forward, it was like in case Ricky left. It was like, okay, there's nobody ideally we can get now, so we're not going to let Ricky leave even if we get a bid. That was something that was going on all summer, and we'd prefer to keep Ricky, and we'll probably get more from anyway in January or the summer. So are we going to sign a new deal? Either one is fine. So we were kind of like, we took that approach, and that's when I was like, look, let's have a go at a Jen. We've got a little bit of cap room, not a lot because I need to keep some for new contracts, but when I was with Robbie negotiating, I had a line in the sand where I told you I wasn't even going $5,000 more, and I made it really clear. So again, I was willing to walk, a bit like that scene at the Heat, De Niro and Pacino, where he's willing to walk out when you hear the heat at the door. I was willing to walk, even at like 5 to 6. I was like, I'm okay not doing this, and sometimes that's the right attitude. Sometimes doing nothing can work really well, as opposed to doing something out of not desperation but franticness and getting caught up in the whole thing at the deadline day, what have you.
Is that hard though for you? You said you've done all your research, you've got your gem,
yep.
You're now in the game,
yep.
You're so close.
Yep.
I can imagine that's difficult. You're now kind of mentally picturing him in your team and in your squad, what you're going to do.
Yep.
How hard is it to walk away from that?
It's really hard because one side of you is like, shit, if someone else picks the gem up now and you see him going for millions in a couple of years and scoring a shitload of goals, you're going to go, for fuck's sake, it was $5,000. And then the flip side is you can't react like that every time. You have to have a figure. You have to draw the line in the sand, and you have to move on, and you have to walk away when it's at a point. So write your figure down and go, that's my line. I'm not going past it, regardless of what might happen in the future. And experience has taught me how to react and act like that. And then you got your fans at you, are we signing? Are we getting anyone in today? And that has to be noise. And that has to be quiet noise, because that can't pressure you into doing business. So equally saying to my manager, hey, we'll shop in January. It's 4 months. It's fine. We're okay. We're good. And he'll then agree and go, actually, you're right. If the right thing isn't there, let's go back in January. So Friday's meeting is an analysis of the summer, everything going on, updates. Everyone's going to be in that room on Friday. It's going to be like 20 of us in the room, foreign scouting, all that kind of stuff. And it'll be very simple. Where do we need long-term now to fill some pieces in the future? So, you would look at it and go, potentially central midfielder, Hector goes next summer, Kwame goes, right wing, and potentially centre back or right back to get long-term competition for James Donnelly, who's been magnificent, because obviously Sam Curran's on loan. So so Peterborough don't need to sign 7, 8 players next summer. They don't need to sign 10 players next summer. We don't have to sign anyone in January, touch wood, everyone stays fit. So you basically go, we need 2 or 3. So now let's do our work the next 4 or 5 months, picking the ones we think will work for us. And I actually like being now in that position, as opposed to going into the summer knowing maybe I needed 7, 8 players. Now it's going to be 2, 3 players. It'll be the odd gem here and there, although the 21's are stacked now with some talent. So that's a good position to be in coming out of the window.
So when you went into the summer, you knew that there was going to be a lot of churn in the squad. There's going to be a lot of outgoings.
I knew the back four would need to be rebuilt.
Were you nervous thinking, okay, crap, there's a lot of things to do here? Or are you confident that we'll figure it out? I have my plan A's and I have my plan B's. And so I'm confident in what we've done to make it happen. Like, what's your mentality as you kind of go through the summer?
I wasn't nervous. I knew we needed to rebuild the back four. I knew, we needed competition for Randall, and we needed Randall on a new contract. I knew Efron's place needed some competition out wide. Toney was a massive bonus. Took a lot of pressure off us in the central midfield thing. That was playing on our mind. The Man City boy was massive, but then he got injured. So I knew the focus would be on the back four, and I knew that would take a minute. You're losing Harrison, you're losing Josh, you're losing Ronnie, individually magnificent, whatever else. Players, big characters, big whatever else. So I knew we needed new defenders on long-term contracts, so we didn't have that ever again, where there's 4 players in the key area all at the same time. So that's why I was like, it's going to take a minute. So, and I didn't want to lose so many players. Ideally, Josh would have signed a new deal, and you lose 2, and that's the way it is. So I don't ever touch wood, be in a position where you lose all 4. So, I felt we've invested in that area really well. And I feel like there's some good building blocks in other areas too. It's never going to be perfect, a club in League One, with what you want and what you've got and whatever else. And you have to change with the times and move. But I feel like we're set up for good success long term. I think we're set up to be very good this season. And now the coaches and the manager go to work and do what they're best at, improving and bringing the best out of that group. The group need to get to know each other. The group, I've just okayed a couple of grand for them all. They're all going go-karting and for dinner and stuff together during the international break. A bit of that needs to happen now, where those young players now need to bond. And I think when they bond, I think they'll be unbelievable. And I think as they grow up together and work together and play together, I think there's going to be a lot of good things will emerge. So our fans have been really good with us. They need to stay with us for that. And I think, they're going to see, as what's that word, is you get better and better and better and better and better. So it's going to happen. But it's
you talk about partnerships. I think about years when we've had a lot of churn and it's happened, and we've you've had a bad few weeks in terms of your goals are in terms of getting points on the board, but then something just happens. There'll be something which, and then everything kind of seems
100%. We've got 2 in every position now. Strength. We've even got an overflow of Romany and David Ajiboy. We've then got in the 21s. We've got a very good group of probably 4 or 5 very talented young players in there. Not ready for us yet, but if called upon, they'll be good. And next summer they could be something else. So we feel this. I was going through the squad difference between the summer and now. I don't want to talk about how young they all are. I think our ex-kit man was moaning on Twitter about we keep talking about how young the players are. So I'll stop saying how young they are. Fair enough. But, it's not, I'm bragging about how young they are, or proud of them, whatever else. I'm trying to just explain again, just to get a bit of patience with them. Yeah. It's a young group, they're young men, they're moving to a new area, they're getting to know their teammates, they're getting to know their bosses, they're getting to know how it all works, they're getting to know what our fans expect from them, they're getting to know the style of play. There's a lot of it, it's not just setting up as a 4-2-3-1 and go and play. A lot of the deep dive we do, you've seen last year, the invertedness from our fullbacks, from our wingers, how we want our 6 and our 8 to play, the pivots. It can be tactically very taxing, and it needs a lot of work off the field and analysis from the young group. And that's why I often say it's a young group. It's the youngest average age of the league, whatever, let's forget that. And they just need a minute, and they just need a bit of time to work into that and get better into that and whatever. So that's what I mean by then. And I'll say no more about them being a young group. So our away fans have been brilliant. Our home fans have fucking been outstanding, showing up in size. So stay with them, because I promise the ride will be exhilarating. And I think some of the football is going to be exhilarating. And of course, there's going to be the usual highs, lows, disappointments, whatever else. But ultimately, we want to have a successful season on the league front, in the cup front. And and we got some great competition in there with the mighty Birmingham and what they're doing. So that was great as well. I went the other way of everyone moaning about Birmingham. I thought that's fantastic to see that.
Yeah, you're talking about them setting them up for an Ipswich style run. And
100%.
If they got the money, then
I don't see the problem. They're a massive football club. People are saying 30 million. I think they spent 20. And even if that 20 was spent over 4 years, it's 5 million a year for a club that size is nothing. It's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even if 6 of it was in this year's budget, it's absolutely nothing. They would have brought money in as well. They bring in 30,000 on the gates. They're good to go. And I understand why they did it. I would do the same. If I had a club that was bringing 30,000 fans in, that was iconic, it was the next big club from the Premier League, and we had to have a reset from years of underachieving in the champ, I'd be like, right, out with everyone, time for a major reset. Now we're going to like excite our fans so that we can get them to fill the place up. So I totally get what they're doing. It's not unfair to League One. They're allowed to do it. And at the end of the day, they'll pass through. And, they'll pass through to the champ, and there'll be a team to be reckoned with in the champ. And buying Stansfield, whether it's 12 million, 15 million, whatever else, like I said, he'll score 30 goals in the championship. Never mind League One. He'll be under 24 and he'll be worth 20, 25 million. So it's no real risk, which would unless something happened to the player. Did they overpay? Of course they did. Fulham seized the moment. They knew they wanted him. I think the Birmingham owner came in to do the deal and wanted the player. And that makes it difficult as well. And I'd be the same. I'd be like, if that was me, and I'd be like, I want that player. Do whatever you got to do. He's got to be here today. The excitement of like landing that player. Yeah. So, it was a perfect storm for Fulham. And then, and would they have liked to have paid 6, 7, 8, 9 million? Of course. But they've thrown a few mil extra in. And I think over time it'll prove to be good business. So, yeah, I think, it's good for the league, good for business.
Yeah. Well, a couple of other newsy items, then we'll get to some questions.
Sure.
So news yesterday, we're recording this on Wednesday, of Leicester beating the PSR charges. Any thoughts or comments on that? And also, is that a direction of travel for others that are putting legal action against the charges that they've been facing?
I think it's DeMarco who won the case for him. I've done battle with him. I've hired him. He's very good. Fair play to him. Fair play to them. At the end of the day, they won. So they found a way around. There's always a little grey area in every set of rules or every whatever else. They found it, and good for them. And I hate to see teams getting deducted points.
Yeah.
So, I'm happy for Leicester fans and happy for Leicester. Steve Cooper's a terrific guy. John Rushton, who does all the deals there, we spar with on deals. I'm happy for everyone involved. So I don't want to see any football club lose its status because of points deductions. I never liked that shit. So good for them.
Given what we've seen, with PSR and some of the weird transfers that it's led to, and, obviously there's a lot of unintended consequences. The question is it really doing what it was intended to do in the first place? Or do we even need it to do what it was intended?
I think they're going to rewrite the rules. I think they found it doesn't work, all that June madness. I think the rules will be rewritten. I think there should be some sort of a cap to stop explosive spending. I think you have to have some small print amendments for new buyers, for new clubs like Newcastle. I think people should be given maybe, instead of per year or 3 years, maybe a 5 year. Someone comes in and buys a club. I think they should get dispensation for like a 5 year period to invest in the right faucets of the club to build it up. I don't think they should be handicapped, because if they're bringing new money in and if they're saving a club, I think they should be allowed to build the club out to a point where they get a certain amount of time and then they have to fall in line with the rules. I think there are loads of amendments you could make. Same could be said for every league. So, these people are all intelligent enough to sit down and figure out a way. And when they do write rules, look for all the little holes. Send me the document. I'll find the holes straight away. When you've been in the business long enough, you'll always find the holes. I was doing this back 19 years ago when I did the biggest sponsorship deal on a shirt to get around the pay cap, and it was a £3 million sponsorship deal that had never been seen in League Two. So I was doing this long before everyone else. And then they closed the gap on that a little bit as well. But, that allowed us to do a little bit more than the 55% or whatever it was in League Two at the time, legally. So there's always going to be a little bit of grey area. And it makes for entertaining, headlines. And Leicester are going to get deducted points twice and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, move on.
So I have to give you the chance to talk about Liverpool beating Man United at Old Trafford.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Loved it. Should have been more. Should have been 5 or 6. Again, I'm not quite sure what the guy at Man United's doing, the manager. I don't quite see it. I like start. He said it himself. Let's wait till they're playing Champions League and Premier League at the same time. I still think they're missing pieces. Be interested with the contracts with Van Dijk, with Trent, with Mo Salah. I couldn't believe Sky missed the opportunity. Salah said it twice on purpose in his interview to Sky. Nobody from the club was contacting me about a contract.
Right.
Daniel Sturridge was too busy dancing or doing whatever he does. And I think Roy Keane was too busy being furious with him over the way he was acting. And then it was, I think it was Dave, the Sky guy, Dave Jones, who, as a journalist, I was surprised straight away he didn't jump in and say, Mo, is what you're saying. Nobody from, football at Liverpool have even sat down and talked new contract. And if they did offer you a new contract, would you sign that new contract? Because that's what I do. Even in my TalkSport capacity, if Mo Salah was on with us and he threw that out there straight away, and I'm not a journalist, I would have gone, would you sign a new contract if Fenway said there's a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal? You know, and has your agent discussed or even approached the club? Or are you waiting for them? Because that was kind of like hidden in all the stuff. Twice he mentioned it on purpose. He was using that to say, offer me a new contract.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. You talked about this could be the last time I'm here, and you know that I read that as a, you know, let's negotiate a contract.
No, the two times he mentioned it, nobody from the club offered him a contract, and pretty much when you jump on that. Right. So, and then I would have followed up with Slot afterwards in his interview and said, "Oh, we've just had Mo Salah out," and he said the club, yeah, it's unfair to maybe ask a manager that, but you got to do your job as a journalist. You know, and say basically, hey, he's just said there, and nobody from the club's offering him a new contract. Are you, as manager, going to ask the board to offer him a new contract? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. So that kind of blew my mind. But I think Liverpool are going to be good this season. I don't expect them to challenge for the title. It'll be interesting. You know, again, Jurgen was the guy that when the owners basically didn't spend any serious money, and again, they've had a surplus profit this summer, I was always like, as long as Jurgen's there, we'll be fine. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how Slot handles a couple of defeats, injuries, issues. But I like him. I like him. He's nothing like Ten Hag. I like him. I like the cut of his jib. I like his style. I like the way he talks. He broke down the game, how he figured out how they were going to beat Man United. If you listen to him, he knows what he's doing. He's a bit charismatic. He's got something about him. Yeah, I think Arnie could be another great find, and I will pay lip service to Fenway and the powers to be in the football department for bringing him in, because he looks like a real gem of a find.
Now, I had a message this morning from Jim on Twitter, who was actually asking for your perspective on a few things National League related. Jim was asking, you know, I don't expect you to necessarily directly answer this question, because it's who do you think are the top players, because that may give away some of your gem list. But you know, what do you look for in National League players? Let's kind of reframe the question.
What do I look for? I look for technical ability. There's some real talented players who are speedy and pacey and all that, but if they haven't got the technical ability, they're not going to go further than League One if they're lucky. I look for 17 to 23. I don't believe, you know, bar Vardy, a lot of players after the age of 25 hit it off from non-league into the Football League quickly, because we don't have 5 years to develop them. You know, and if you sign a 25-year-old, he's 29, 30 by the time they, you know. I look for how they do it against the better teams. So I look for, you know, it's great, you know, they're playing the bully boy teams lower down and that player performs really well. How do you do against Notts County? How do you do against Wrexham? How do you do it against some of the bigger clubs in the National League? You know, the Solihull. How do you do against Barnet? What else do we look for? Attitude, you know, history. Go into the archives, speak to the crowd, find out about the player off the pitch. If they got dumped out of an academy, did they get dumped from the Football League? What's their attitude been like? Colin Clark's attitude was, I'm going to show Fleetwood and everyone else I'm the best player, and I should never have been sold to Altrincham.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to come here and win best player in non-league. You know, a young player like Neville at Rochdale, and I see Rochdale more as a Football League club, was different. You know, he was a young player who wanted to play lots of football. And, you know, the rigors and physicality of non-league didn't get to him when he did play, and he'd still play his game. So all those little things we look for, those signs, you know, and listen, it's not always a good success rate in non-league. Sometimes it can be hit and miss, and they end up going back down that way. You got them. So, you know, but we've struck more than we've lost.
Do you have an opinion on the strongest teams this year? You know, it's a little bit more open, I think, than in previous years. And right now, only 6 games in, you got Gateshead unbeaten, Eastleigh, Barnet, Rochdale, Forest Green, York, Aldershots.
I think Barnet, Eastleigh, because they spend money as well. Forest Green and Gateshead definitely, because the manager's got them playing some great football. And I think they got screwed out of stuff last year to do with the council and the size of their stadium and stuff. I think those 4 teams there you've mentioned. Southend, I don't know what's going on with their ownership, but again, 8,000-9,000 fans on a Tuesday night or whatever night it was. They should be a force to be reckoned with that kind of gate money coming in. They should be able to, you know, have the talent in their team to do well. So, you know, I secretly think Barnet will win the league by 10 points.
Okay.
But secretly, I'll put it out there.
Do you want them to win the league by 10 points? Because maybe that cuts off a path of talent. You know, if they might be more likely.
Yeah,
gems.
Yeah, maybe they will. I mean, it would make it difficult. It's difficult enough dealing with Toney there, trying to do deals, So if they got into the Football League, that might close that avenue down. So okay, then Forest Green by 10 points. But I think Barnet will win. Yeah, the league. I do. I think so. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But listen, it's a very strong league. It always has been. It's getting stronger.
And they signed a deal. The National League signed a deal with Zen to for every match available to international audiences, similar to the iFollow.
Aaron McLean's working for them. Yeah, happy about that. Look, I'm not a big fan of non-league and their FA Cup posturing and what they did there at the Premier League and whatever else, and they've ended up with their own kind of EFL trophy that they're doing there midweek with the Premier League teams. So I think that was the wrong thing to do if they're trying to, make friends with the EFL and, and do things right. But yeah, good for them. I'm happy for any league to have a better TV deal that allows, clubs to prosper better and have more money, So I'm always a fan of that. And DAZN are spending money, and good for them. They obviously couldn't afford an EFL deal. They'd spend a lot in boxing, and this is an NFL. Now this is their first foray into proper English football. So, let's see how it goes.
For all the deal with Paramount and CBS over here with the EFL, I still can only watch one club at a time on buying the subscription. It just drives me crazy. Yes,
it's Birmingham and Wrexham. It's Birmingham and Wrexham on most weekends because of the American ownership, which I get.
Yeah.
But I don't understand it. They have that deal. Why can't they do like Sky Plus do and have all the games?
I can't watch you play.
Right. Last night the EFL Trophy was on Sky, and you can watch every EFL Trophy game. So if those networks in America have bought the rights for everything, why don't they have a plus section on their streamer where you can pretty much watch every single match? I don't understand that either.
Every day, I'd have something on, in the background all the time.
I agree with you. When I was home in America a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to watch. I can't remember the game, and I went into my is it Paramount now? I went in there and whatever. It used to be ESPN Plus. I went in there, and I have Paramount Plus. I have every fucking streamer, and my kids, streaming. So. And I went in, I was like, fuck, it was Huddersfield, Birmingham, and Wrexham. It was like the three American-owned clubs that were on. No other club in the league was on. And League Two, the same. There was fuck all like League Two games on. Bar Gillingham, I think, who again are American-owned. So it's like, guys, what are you doing? Like, put all the fucking games on. Surely, I don't think the TV deal prohibits them from doing that. So why aren't you doing it? What does it matter to Americans watching it and growing our sport? Like, what the fuck? Anyway.
They probably want the club to have the ability to sell the season ticket directly for their games, and therefore they don't need one team on all the time.
Maybe. I don't know. I really don't get it, but I agree with you. It should be more.
A couple of other questions. Let's just rattle through because we've got tons of questions, and so we're not going to get all of them today. Tom Portville fan, was Lorent Tolaj from Aldershots ever on your radar? I'd have thought 22-year-old striker. 25 goals, 10 assists non-league would have been a typical Posh signing.
No, he'd come up. My scout was like in the reports or whatever. It was just not for us at the time. So, but doesn't mean he's not a talented player, and it doesn't mean we don't always get it right or wrong. So hopefully he's going to do really well for Portville.
Yeah. Lee, who's a Luton fan, says, in normal business, the manager and assistant manager are generally the highest paid members of staff. Is that the same in football? So, for example, his example, and I can probably answer that, is Darragh always paid more than any of the players. I don't think a manager has paid more than the players. But, when you think about
he is now. Years and years ago, he wasn't. Now he'd be the highest paid person at the club, and rightly so. Okay.
And is that normal within a club?
No, not always. Not in League One and League Two. In the Champ and the Prem, yes, you get managers on 2 million, 3 million. In the Prem, you got Guardiola on 20. So it depends on the size of the club. But in League One and League Two, no, you wouldn't always have the manager as the highest paid person. But I felt my manager and the staff, I've looked after them really well the last 2 years to ensure that they were on board with what we're doing. And that's worked really well. And my manager's got real incentives and bonuses that, would really put him as the highest paid person. And again, deservedly so will always be my answer to that question. Mm-hmm. He earns every penny.
Saul on email says, how do you keep relationships between director of football and manager working well? Or, resolving differences of opinion about players, signings, and direction?
Tough. I've had that for 20 years. Tough. Sometimes they could be at each other. Sometimes they're on the same page. Sometimes it can be tough. And they'll both tell the truth in that way. They will drive each other mad at times. They will be on the same page at times. And sometimes I could be piggy in the middle. It's what makes it fun. It's what makes it interesting. I love it. And because I've been doing it for 19 years, every time it happens, I chuckle and laugh and kind of like, let's still calm the fuck down. You know, so yeah, it's difficult at every club. You know, I read a good article for a change in the Athletic. Tony Bloom was answering questions, and he spoke about the previous manager wasn't on board with their recruitment style. You know, the way they recruited. He was bringing players, and that's not how they recruit. They have their recruitment department based on analytics and whatever else, and they work with the head coach like we do at Peterborough and say, hey, what about this player and whatever else? But the previous manager, he signed for those terms, he came on board, and then he wanted to start throwing names and players in, and he felt like it was never going to work. And that's where like they Brighton recruit their way. Peterborough's very similar. It's pretty similar to how we recruit. The odd time you get the manager and his analyst will throw up a Swedish Bobby Moore or whatever else, and we'll jump on that. But that's where we collaborate. That's where there's no airs and graces. We will collaborate, you know, on players, and we're all pretty much in unison in what we do. But nobody will come into the football club unless it's for the good of the long term of the football club.
Now, last question, then we'll wrap up. It's from Lancaster. I don't know if that's Lancaster Bantam or whether it's just Lancaster, but he's a Bradford fan. When do you think the club should start planning for life after Andy Cook? Andy Cook's got another 2 years left.
Last summer.
Yeah.
Last summer. Summer just gone. You know, look, target men have a long life, long shelf life. You know, that kind of player. But you always have to plan because something could happen to the player.
Yeah.
So you know, but I guess it depends on the manager. You know, but they really, and to be fair to Bradford, they've got some attacking players where I think they're already planning. I think you've got some young players there that if Andy Cook left in January, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah,
I do.
No, I think the same. You know, and maybe it's a different style of play, but it's about partnerships, and there's players there that can form.
I think you could change the way you play and be very, very effective with some of the young players you've got in forward areas. I do. I think if somebody had offered you 200 grand for Andy Cook on deadline day, my advice would have been at the time, take the money for a player that age. No disrespect to Andy, and go with what you've got in the building. I think you've got some players that could make you more fluid and change a little bit. And, you know, the manager probably sees that as well. He's a very experienced manager. So, yeah, I don't think Bradford fans need to lose sleep about when Andy Cook finally leaves. Well, you found out from Peterborough last year, we didn't need a golden boot winner to be a really good football team and score lots of goals.
Yeah. No, I feel like he's not the talisman. He's not the person that if he was not available, it would all fall apart. I think that this season it's probably more like something like Richie Smallwood. You know,
right.
That's
a plan for that.
Right.
Plan for that. So, you know, you always have a plan till someone smacks you in the mouth. It's my favorite saying. But I do love a plan B, C, and D. And, you know, I'll even with my wife, she'll know that plan B, C, and D. You know, what are we doing? She was ringing me earlier. I know what that would be about. And I'll say to her the first thing when I ring her back is, what's plan B? You know, that's something we're doing. So you know, so that's my advice to everyone. So that's another week of the pod.
Yeah.
Obviously, we both got loads of shit to do, so we got to get offline. Thank you to everyone that listens and tunes in. And again, you know, Swanee, everyone else in the media out there, be careful of what bits you pick of this, because I just don't need the drama the next 3 weeks. I need a quiet time.
All right. Well, with that being said, thanks everyone for listening. Keep those questions coming in. We don't get to them in a particular episode, then we keep them here on file to bring them up when.
There you go.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you again soon.